Welcome, everyone, to episode 97 of the Phoenix Report. I'm Jack Connor, and today I have a very special guest. I can safely say that I have known this gentleman my entire life. He and my dad have been best friends for decades now. I believe they met in Westchester University in the late 60s when they were just young college students, young fraternity brothers in TKE. And, this guy is always, for as long as I've known him, he's always been an incredible musician, a great drummer, a great singer. And all these years later, he's still doing it. He's still putting out content left and right. He's also an accomplished screenwriter, from what I understand. He's been writing some scripts and shopping that around to different film festivals, which is really cool. I definitely want to get into that more with him about it. But a couple years ago, I remember listening to the Preston and Steve show. For those of you who know me, you knew that I grew up in the Philadelphia area, and the Preston and Steve show has been one of the number one, I believe for years, it's been the number one morning radio show in the Philadelphia market. Well, a couple years ago, I was listening to their daily podcast quite a bit because, again, a part of it is, from where I grew up, and I always really enjoyed their show. And from time to time, I would hear this song that they would play, and it was sort of a theme song for the NBA team, the Philadelphia 76ers. It was this really catchy tune, and I would listen to it, and it sounded like it was recorded in the 70s. It would go, clap your hands, everybody. And those of you in Philly will probably know it. Well, little did I know that my guest today actually played on that record. This man who's basically been like an uncle to me my whole life apparently has this whole career that I knew about it, but I didn't really know about it. I know he would play with mutual friends that he and my dad had over the years, guys like the late great Vic DeLucas, Randy Childress, Dick and Joe Schmucky, and probably a couple other guys that I might be forgetting. But it's really cool for me to have this guy on here so we could talk about his career, talk about what he's up to now, and this guy has been a big part of my life for a long time. So please welcome Frank McDonnell.
Jack, it's great to see you and hear your voice, my man.
Awesome, Uncle Frank. I'm so glad that you joined me on this one. And like I said, I remember a couple years ago when I found out that you had played on that 76ers theme song. I thought that was incredible. Like I had been hearing that song for years. I'd never put two and two together.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. We were in between bands at the time. When one band we were all in broke up, some of us wanted to stay and work. And so Dick Schmucky and I were looking for other guys because some other guys just wanted to write music. So we got into writing jingles. And we must have written maybe, 7 or 8 theme songs for the Flyers, the Phillies, the Sixers, and a couple soccer teams in Baltimore. All over the place we were writing.
That's awesome.
Songs.
Now, was this when you guys were still in school, or was this after? Like what's the time frame?
Yeah, it was after we were out of college.
Mm-hmm.
We had a record deal when we were in college and left and toured around for a long time, and then I think in 1974. Yeah, 74 we started doing the jingles when some guys said I were tired of being on the road and all that stuff, and we couldn't get a second record deal. So while Dick and I were looking to get another band started, we all still were writing these jingles, And the only one that really got through to the Sixers was, it's called "Here Come the Sixers." And that was because Randy Childress, our bass player, his wife was a secretary at the 76ers office. So she took the cassette tape in to, I guess, Paul Williams, the general manager at the time, and he really got into it, So
that's so cool.
His history,
That's great. So I didn't even know that you guys had a record deal back then. Was what was this band called that you were in?
It was called Wellington Arrangement.
Wellington Arrangement. Cool. Tell me a little more about it. Like what kind of sound were you guys doing?
Yeah, we were, basically a rock band.
Nice.
We were playing, a lot of clubs and colleges and high schools and all that stuff. But somebody saw us and they offered us a deal. I think I was I was a senior. I quit. Everybody quit. Dick was a junior. Some guys had graduated. Victor Lucas was in it with us, Randy Childress, me, Terry Rocap, and so we got the deal. Went to New York, and then the funny thing was the guys that signed us, had deals with different labels. So they put us on the Decca Records label, which ironically at the time, in whatever it was, 1969, it would have been.
Wow.
The Who was on that label. So thinking they're going to be label mates, so we're going to meet the Who. Well, I never met them till maybe, 6 years later, and I met those guys up in New York. But we were like the opening act for a bunch of bands, so we toured up and down the East Coast,
no kidding,
down in the South, and we were booked all over the place. We opened up for the Monkees, the Association, Dennis Yost and the Classics, for all those 70s, late 60s, 70s bands. And then in our travels, we didn't open up. Springsteen opened up for us at a club in Asbury Park.
Wow.
Stayed there for a couple of months, and did
you guys do the Stone Pony?
No, it was called Captain's Garter.
Oh,
not too far from the Stone Pony. And
wow.
The manager or whatever, he came up to us and says, "Hey, Frank," he says, "I got a local guy, wants to come in, he says, I'm going to have him play your breaks just during the week. I don't want him here on weekends when the crowd's here. But can you use your sound system?" I said, "Oh, yeah, no problem." And it was Bruce. We didn't know at the time who he was.
That's incredible.
And he was only doing Dylan songs while he was playing. So everybody, I'd be at the bar having a Coke, and then all the customers come up to me and goes, "When's this guy getting off?" I said, "No, he's only doing 20 minutes. He'll be off in a few minutes." And so, but the entire couple of months we were there half the summer, he would come up to say, "Hey, I really like your band. I like the way you guys play and sing." He says, "I'm putting another band together. He says, you want to jam with me sometime?" Right? Every other week he would say it to us, and then we would go,
"Wow."
We'd love to, but our manager's like, Hitler, and we have to learn these cover songs, and we're trying to write originals too. So he says, "Well, if you ever think about it, he says, you can come down to Freehold, and we can."
If only Max Weinberg didn't take your gig there.
Jack, the funny thing about Max Weinberg was, so years later when I'm working in the casino as a lawyer, I would tell these war stories, and my colleagues would get so hysterical and say, "You're so stupid. How could you blow up Bruce Springsteen?" I said, "You would have done it too, because nobody in the club really was interested in hearing Bob Dylan,
Yeah, you can never predict those sorts of things.
So I said, if he would have been playing Born to Run, which we heard later, I said, Max Weinberg will be selling shoes in Secaucus. I promise.
I know, right?
Yeah. But ironically, 3 years later, in 1975, when we were playing in Wildwood, at this big club down there for the summer, our manager came into our dressing room and threw the Born to Run album on our couch. And on the record player, he scratches it on there, and he plays the Born to Run song. Going, "Who the hell is that?" Couldn't believe it, right? And who is it?
It's like, remember that kid from Asbury Park? Here he is.
He says, the guy up in, it was actually Neptune next to Asbury Park. At the Captain's Garter, that's Bruce from the Captain's Garter. I said, "Get the hell out." Everybody was sick. And then, I forget who said it. Somebody said, "We could have been in that band, It was,
right?
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
That's cool. So you were in the band. You're in Wellington Arrangement. You guys were doing your own music. You were doing some covers too, and you and Dick started to look into to jingles, to sports themes.
Yeah. All five of us wanted to do it. Yeah. So all the guys from Wellington, we were just fooling around, and Dick and I finally found a couple of guys from New York that were really good, and then we put together the next.
Just as like kind of a side thing, or just maybe just like a unique angle, for the label, maybe.
Oh no, we were done with the label at that time.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
We were just freelancing. The other guys wanted just to, play coffee houses and whatever they wanted to do. So we did the jingles for a while, and then Dick and I started the next band. After that.
Very cool. So that's awesome. For one thing, I gotta talk to my dad about that, because he never told me anything about you guys touring and opening for the Monkees and for Bruce and all this other stuff. So I gotta talk to Dad about that for sure. But it's
well, Jack, the funny thing is, I'm gonna tell you. So they used to ship us down to Atlanta, Georgia, a lot. We used to go down there for 6 weeks. So we would stay down there, and So we played all the big clubs in underground Atlanta at the time. Was really exciting, right? We'd be across the street from, God, I forget the guy's name now. Get your motor running.
Steppenwolf?
Steppenwolf, yeah. John Kay, right? John Kay was in.
I think so, yeah.
He'd be playing over at the club next to us as a solo guy. And all these big acts were down there. But then when we went to this big club in Atlanta, it was called Finocchio's. We went in there 2 days ahead of the night we were going to start to hear, to check the room out and see what the crowd was like, before we started. And we hear this band in there ripping the place up. The crowd was going nuts. They're in the middle of these double guitar solos, Who the hell is that? And we go up, and they get done. Everybody starts screaming, and then and everybody's grabbing the drummer. As the drummer came off the stage, I went up to the drummer. I said, "My man," I said, "We're playing here next week." I said, "I can't believe how great that song is." He goes, I said, "Is that one of your songs?" He goes, "Oh yeah." I said, "What's it called?" He goes, "Freebird." Right.
It was the Leonard Skinner guys, wasn't it?
Yeah, Leonard Skinner, right?
That's so cool.
And I said, "Really?" I said, "That's great." He says, "Yeah." He says, "We're going to have it out in the next couple of months on our next album." I said, "Well, good."
I had a feeling once he said it was like that big double guitar solo. I'm like, "Oh, it's got to be Freebird."
Yeah, I said, "Good."
That's killer.
So anyway, he says, "Oh yeah." He says, "So you're playing here next week?" He says, "You have to come in and check you out." It was Bob, the drummer, and so the next week while I'm playing,
Bob Burns,
I see Bob comes up and everybody's grabbing him, and he gives me the double thumbs up when we're in the middle of our song, which felt pretty good,
So cool.
That was one of the good stories that we had. But
yeah, for sure. Well, I remember one that Dad always told me was when you guys were in school and you went to see this band and you weren't really sure about them, and it was this unknown band called the Chicago Transit Authority.
Yeah, that's right.
Of course, before they were Chicago, like legendary band, which is great.
Yeah, their first tour, they blew everybody's mind that night.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
Because they revolutionized everything. Everything was mic'd up. The drummer, Danny Surf, and everybody's mic'd. The horns, they sounded like freight train coming through.
Oh, I'll bet.
Yeah,
I'll bet. I mean, I've read stuff about how Terry Kath was like one of Jimi Hendrix's favorite guitar players.
Yes, he was.
Which that's saying something.
Exactly. He's really in the top list of a lot of guitar players. It was crazy watching him play. But that same year, all the concerts, Sly and the Family Stone came in. We watched him in the band, the sideways drummer. It was like a lot of great music.
Yeah. Oh, I'll bet.
Yeah, pretty funny.
Well, that's really cool. So you'd been playing in bands for years. Obviously the Sixer song gets picked up.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's kind of cool that the team has. I guess they've continued to use it for as long as I can remember.
Well, they started using it in 1975.
Yeah.
That's when we finished doing it. But along came like a car dealer took over the Sixers one year, and then I think when rap music started getting popular, they wanted a rap thing, so they jettisoned our song, and maybe for 3 or 4 years they used another theme song. But then when he sold it, the next group came in and they opened up like online. They asked for all the people to decide which song, and they put our song. You want this song back, and like 60,000 people said they wanted our song. So then we got back. I forget what year that was, but came back and they've been using it ever since.
You know what? I'm also thinking about like another theme song that the team had from like, because my dad would take me there when I was really little, when I was like during the 90s, and there was some song called "Sixers Got the Speed of Sound." Does that ring a bell?
No, I don't remember that one.
I remember like it was just some tune. I was like, "Sixers got the speed of sound," or like whatever, however it went.
Yeah.
Like I have no idea. I'd like that could be just a fever dream in my head, but for some reason that comes back.
Could have been,
You never know.
I would have liked to have heard that one. That sounds pretty funny, yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'll have to try and like Google that. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. I'm sure someone has put like all those old songs on YouTube at some point.
Right. Yeah. It's got to be somewhere.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
Gotta be. So, but yeah, I mean, but like you said, you've worked as a lawyer for years. You worked for Delaware Park, the casino, and for a long time, you've also still performed there, like over the years.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, it was Philadelphia Park.
Philadelphia Park.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When we got the casino in 2010.
Philadelphia Park. Is that up near Valley Forge, or am I thinking of someplace else?
Now, Philadelphia Park is in Bensalem, Pennsylvania.
Bensalem.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was always a thoroughbred racetrack, and then we got a casino license in 2010.
Nice.
And then I begged them for a couple of years to build an entertainment center, which they finally agreed to. And then when that opened up, my little part-time band, we played every once in a while. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to play. So that was
Nice. Yeah. Just for years, any time you'd have like some sort of demo out, my dad would, he would email me or text me like, check out what Frank is doing, and it's always been cool to just sort of follow your career, and honestly, it's inspiring to me because like I love the fact that you're still doing it and that you haven't given up, and it's like people say, don't quit your day job. I mean, I haven't quit my day job, and neither have you, but you still find a way to do it, and that's. I mean, I even remember as a kid in Chopper Charles's basement, how like we would record. We would record like videos of you coming in and like just like doing a drum solo or whatever it was. So I mean, that stuff has definitely stuck with me for a long time.
Yeah. Well, you're a musician, my man, so you know how it's in your blood and it never leaves your blood. And so when I was ready to get out of the casino world, and I just wanted to get back into it. I mean, it was like unfinished business for me.
Absolutely.
We wanted to get another record deal, which we never got. I still, now that Spotify and all this stuff came up, let me jump into that crazy little atmosphere. And
yeah, I mean, the business is completely upside down from where it has been decades ago, and
yep.
Sometimes I think with technology, I mean, it was probably inevitable. Like it's easy to point fingers and be like, oh well, this whole started it,
right.
And I just feel like with the way technology is, it was going to get here one way or another.
Right. You're right. It's a shame. It's crazy because now you compete against maybe 100,000 new releases every week, they're saying. I mean, I don't know what it is, but it's just clustered with.
Oh, I mean, not that the odds were ever super easy, even back in the day, but like especially now, it's astronomical.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I guess the silver lining of it is that everyone has a way to share their own music,
mm-hmm.
and you still have an outlet.
Yeah.
So even though, I mean, obviously there's no money in it,
yeah.
but I mean, it's still something, there are still ways to do it and ways to get it out there. And I tell a lot of other people that like, hey, sometimes even just putting out a record and putting out something that you're proud of is its own reward.
Yeah, it is. It is. But my mercenary goal now is, I learned a little bit about the sync licensing area, where people are putting their music into films and TV and commercials. And that's where the money is today. So that's why I got sort of convinced. I think I'm convincing Dick to sign up with these guys maybe in a couple of weeks. But there's so much money in it that we're just putting our songs together with the goal of we're going to do a deal with these sync guys. We're going to pitch our stuff to these music supervisors who bring all the music into the films and TV industry, which is really interesting. I mean, they pay a lot of money for the right songs, and
absolutely.
So that's kind of the goal.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many different ways to do it. Like whether it's in advertising, which I mean, I would argue, if you can get a song in a commercial, that's as good as like having it on the radio back in the day.
Absolutely.
Like you hear like some of these old songs, will pop up from time to time, and they'll go back on the charts for downloads,
right,
just because of like a successful ad campaign.
Exactly.
Like
it's really interesting.
Yeah.
I was talking to the guys earlier before I talked to you tonight, and they were showing this little class that I'm in, the type of upfront money they give for the songs. And he says, well, a couple times a month when we get these submissions, and these guys are really well entrenched in the business. They've been making tons of money, and their stuff is in everything, you know. And they were saying we get 2 or 3 submissions from music supervisors with an upfront fee of like $500,000. $500,000.
Wow.
Most of the time, you get maybe 4,000, you get 10, get 15 grand up front, and then if the thing keeps playing, you get, you know, all those back end royalties on it. So it's really a lucrative area if you can hit it. Not that there's any guarantee, you know, but.
Yeah, no, obviously. I'm like, well, yeah, someone's got to be making money in the business nowadays. Oh, yeah. It's got to be somewhere.
Yeah, and that's where it's at, I think, for anybody who wants to make money. Because we had played, we tried to play again at my old casino with a new entertainment director 2 years ago. And so we practiced about 3 weeks, you know, really. And we had a girl singer who was great, and my old guitar player was playing, and Dick was playing, you know. And, I mean, we really sounded good. And the sound guys come up and said, "You're the best band that's been in here." Blah, blah, blah. I said, "Thanks, man. I really appreciate it." So I figured I wanted to parlay that in all the other casinos around the Philadelphia area, because I had talked to the guy down in Harrah's and Chester, and he says, "Yeah, let me know how you do at Parks." You know, blah, blah. I said, "Okay." So we played. So now I'm feeling good, you know. So I called the entertainment guy the next day, and his name is Helmut Perza. And I said, "Helmut," I said, "Look," I said, "I'm trying to get my band, because this is casinos the only places that really pay any meaningful money. If we can just do a circuit where we come in every month or even every 2 months, because then I can do a deal with the other casinos, because they're kind of waiting to see how we did, you know." And he said, "Frank," he says, "you guys were great. I really like the way you played and everything. Everybody loved you, blah, blah, blah." But he says, "You don't draw as many people as the younger bands." Well, that set me off, you know. I says, "Come on, man." I said, when I was here working, playing, I said, nobody ever said I had to promote everything. I said, because most of our people at our age, you know, they don't go out a lot, you know. I said I would have, but and so we never played. So now we knew nobody would ever hire us for any good places. But and the local bars were asking us to play. But the funny thing was, they called me a couple of times, said, "Oh, we love the band. Can you play here?" And I said, "Well, how much would it be?" And they said, $500, you know. So I called John, our guitar player. They want to pay us $500. He says, "We're going to unload that truck for $500 divided by 5." I said, "Yeah,
right.
I guess not." So.
Oh yeah, no, I mean
You know.
Yeah, I mean it's like that in a lot of places, and I mean I don't know if it's the current economy or whatever it is. I mean I'm sure there are a lot of explanations for it, but it's just people don't realize like how you know.
Yeah.
You know, some people might be like $500. That's not too bad. I'm like, yeah, but try dividing that against 5 guys. Not to mention the time invested when it comes to learning material, getting the right equipment, carrying it yourself back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just playing this one place with a band I was in. I think maybe we cleared about $400. Mm-hmm. They didn't even offer us any drinks or food or anything like that. You know, it's just. Yeah. It's totally there's so much like, you know, lowballing around
and especially
here.
After COVID hit, because I had a trio playing right before COVID hit, and we got a couple $100, whatever it was. We didn't care that much about it. But when COVID hit, they threw out all the bands, and all they had was either a solo guitar player or a piano player. So they really felt like, oh man, we don't need bands. If they use bands now, they don't pay anything. So.
Okay, and if you're playing original music, like forget it.
Oh yeah.
Like a lot of times they make you pay to get on tour.
Yeah, we never dare to play original music in any of those places, but it's the way it goes.
Not for sure, but I mean, I love the stuff that, you know, my dad has sent me so far. The stuff, you know, he definitely keeps me updated on everything you're doing, and. Yeah, I love the fact that you're getting into the world of like script writing as well. Yeah. Where did that come from?
Yeah, that was funny. It was, the end of my career at the casino. My buddy, who I went to high school with, we had the same things. He played in the band, I played in the band during high school. And then I went to law school, he went to law school, and then I stayed in Philly, and then he moved to Los Angeles. Got a job with a great, you know, big law firm. And then he left there a couple of years later and got a job with a production company, a film studio called Largo Productions, who happened to do all the Die Hard movies with Bruce Willis in the beginning. Okay. And then Eddie Murphy and all these cop movies and stuff. So we would talk every week, and then I would tell him about the casino. He'd tell me about Arnold Schwarzenegger came into our office this week and was arguing with my boss about something,
Just name dropping left and
yeah.
right.
and so I would tell him stories about the casino, what happened at the casino, all this stuff, And after a while, he says, Frank, he says, you ought to write a screenplay, because he had written screenplays too, he almost got produced. And I said, Nick, why would I do that? He goes, no, he says, all this stuff's funny. Why don't you just type in your computer all the stuff you're telling me about because it's so funny, and then I'll help you do one. He says, I'll send you the book. So he sends me this John Truby book, I forget the name of it, and I said, okay, I'll read it. I read it, and then when I was ready to leave, I figured, you know what, when I leave my job, I think I'm going to go out to California. He says, come out to California, I'll help you write the screenplay. I said, okay. So I moved to California about 14 months, and he was teaching law school at UCLA and UC Irvine. And I happened to move to Huntington Beach, which was near UC Irvine. So he would come every Wednesday and teach the law school down there, entertainment law, And so we got together all the time. And so I would just get my software. I took the Aaron Sorkin master class on screenwriting, read all the books, blah, 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 blah. Tried them. And then he would correct me as I went and showed him pieces of it. Because I had to get the software because the software tells you how to put the script into the proper format. So when I finally got done after all the stuff, he says, "You done?" I go, "Yeah." I sent him my script, and he goes, "Frank," he says, "your screenplay is 157 pages." I said, "Well, what's wrong with that?" He goes, "It can't be any more than 120." He says, every page is a minute, and they don't want to go over 2 hours most of the time. I went, "Oh God." So 3 weeks later, I had to delete all the stuff. I didn't want to delete different stuff. It took me 3 weeks to throw out the stuff to get it down to under 120.
I mean, that's not a bad problem to have, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I figure better than that than like not having enough.
Oh, exactly.
material.
And the funny thing was, I kept the stuff that I excised from it because I have it in my little data bank if I ever needed a funny story or something like that. Yeah, so I got it done, and then the irony was at the very end, he goes, "Frank, you ought to be so proud of yourself." I said, "Yeah, thanks, Nick. I couldn't have done it without you. I really appreciate it." I said, "Now," I said, "who can you send it to?" Because I sent postcards out a little while ago to all the studios, and they came right back as unsolicited, which is the big term. They don't know anybody. He says, "Oh man," he says, "all the guys I work with," he says, "God, the one guy bought an island off the Maldives, and I don't even see any of those guys anymore." I said, "Nick, you got to be kidding me." I said, "You think I moved out here to write this? I thought you had connections." He goes, "Nah," he says, "I don't even talk to those guys." I see. He goes, "Nah, you'll be okay." I said, "Wait a minute, what about the guy at UCLA Law where you teach those classes?" I said, "Wasn't he a VP at the MGM Studios?" He goes, "Oh yeah." He says, "I don't like that guy." I said, "Nick, I don't care if you like the guy. You can't hand him my script." I was ready to choke him,
Right.
Anyway, that went that way. So when I came back home in 2018, I just kind of threw the script away. I figured, it took me so much time to do it. I have to go solicit now. That's it until the following year I started, or maybe a year and a half later, I started entering film festivals, and I started getting the buzz again, because I won a couple, which gave me like enthusiasm to keep doing it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So.
And these are all based off like stories that you would run into just from working in the casino for years.
Yeah.
I can only imagine just the amount of people that come through and.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll bet you've seen some stuff.
But I integrated it with my entry into the online dating world after I was divorced, and I mingled both of the content in there into one screenplay. It's a rom-com, But I actually got in. The great thing that really gave me extra impetus is I got selected to the Beverly Hills Film Festival like a month after I was ready to throw my script away. I figured, I'm done with this, So now I'm still chugging. So it's doing pretty well. Nice. I got another one. I got a music one you would like, I think, about. I knew Judd Apatow did all the rom-com movies, music director. On Twitter, maybe a year ago, he started saying, "I wish I had a 70s or 80s rock band journey." I went, bingo. Started writing my second script, and I got it done. And I'm telling you, it's really pretty good. And now shipping that out, and I actually have. Oh, he hasn't read it yet, but I have Michael Stipes from REM. News of My Vision.
Mm-hmm.
He's really a big film producer now, and he's looking at my rom-com. And
yeah.
I told his exec, I said, look, I got this music thing I would love Michael Stipes to do. So I'm hoping he shows him that one. So.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah. The one thing about that world that I imagine, I wonder, I've always been curious, like if it works similar to how like the music business works now, where it's like if you have original material, it almost seems like you have to pay to get it, heard by someone, or get it on the radio, or you have to buy onto, getting on one of these festivals. I don't know if it's similar in the film world, where it's like you have to like, they probably charge you an arm and a leg to submit it to this particular festival, and you don't know if it's going to go there. I don't know if you've run into issues like that with your stuff.
All right. Well, it's not expensive to get into festivals. I mean, the festivals, some of them were like $50, 60, 70, maybe 90, But the thing for me was, when I felt like I had a shot, if I made it, if I got to be in the final, I was in the finals in this Austin Comedy Film Festival. So there were 9 of us, and like 4 of us were from like Australia, all over the place. I figured, what, if I go down to Austin, Texas, maybe I got a shot if I show up, and nobody else does,
Yeah, also, like, Austin's such an entertainment town,
yeah.
You never know who you're going to connect with out there.
Yeah, so I went down there and actually won it, And
nice.
That gave me a shot in the arm. And then I went to, there's another one. But yeah, I got into maybe 3 or 4. But I was a finalist in a lot, maybe 13 different ones, and I went to a couple. So, and Beverly Hills is interesting. The difference between Beverly Hills and the other ones was all the other film festivals, there were maybe 9 or 10 finalists, which was fine. That was competitive. But Beverly Hills, after I entered, they said there was 160 finalists. I went, I got no shot for that, but I figured I have to go there. I said, that's one of the biggest ones. So I met a lot of people out there. So it was worth it, just to be there.
That's awesome. And just, if nothing else, like for the experience, to say that you did it and you went for it, and you got to meet some cool people along the way, like that in and of itself, I think is worth it.
Oh yeah, it is. It keeps me busy, and I think the reason why I got into Beverly Hills was I met this guy online, Steve Longy, who was one of the producers for a big Oscar awarded or Oscar finalist movie called Hacksaw Ridge, which was like
Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, Garfield. Medic in the Korean War. So,
it was about Desmond Doss, I think, the guy who it was based on a true story.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, great movie. So Steve Longy is like, energized, because I would, when I pitched my script to people without sending the actual script, I always got blown away because I didn't know what I was doing. So he fixed all my pitches, all my log lines, and all these other things you have to do, which I never really comprehended. And I think that's why I got into Beverly Hills Film Festival, because once I fixed all my stuff, now I'm getting bites from people asking to see my script. So
that's
so awesome. It worked out.
That's so cool.
Just hung in there. It's like they say, you got to hang in there if you can hang in long enough.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just, things will happen, and just even from a creatively fulfilling standpoint, like that, it's good for the soul. I really believe.
Oh yeah, it is. I've come a long way in that thing, and the music one is, I have some of my own band's little hijinks along the way, and I have a lot of stuff.
Oh, I'll
bet. It's pretty funny. A lot of good music. I have all the best music of the 70s in there, interspersed, and then I'm throwing in some of my originals I never recorded, which I just got done recording some of the originals we wrote in 1978. So
nice.
That would be good too. If I get it in, I'd make a little bit of money off the song. So let's see how it works.
That's awesome. So I know you've mainly been a drummer. You've also sang. Who have been some of your biggest influences, in order to get into music?
Well, it started out when I was I started hacking around with the drums when I was 10, right? So at that age, the guy that got me interested was a guy called Gene Krupa, a drummer in the
Yeah,
60s.
yeah, legendary jazz
Yeah.
drummer for sure. Big band, I
He
should say.
he was the big guy on TV.
Yeah,
Gene Cooper story and all that stuff. Sort of beating on the cardboard boxes, and my parents, would humor me. Didn't get a drum set for a while, but yeah, him and a lot of, and then there's '60s bands, and then when the Beatles, my buddy and I were playing all these used to be a lot of instrumental bands like called the Ventures,
yeah.
this thing. We'd just be playing these ticky-tack songs until some more bands.
Yeah, the Ventures didn't they do the theme song from Hawaii Five-0?
Probably, yes. That was just
I think
it was
so.
all like surfing music and
Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty funny.
Dick Dale, stuff like that.
Yeah. And there were interspersed songs that we would learn, but then when the Beatles broke in like 1963, it was like, what the?
Game changer.
Yeah. Radio stations promoted this band. Yeah, listen, this band's going to be crazy. They kept on pumping it. And when we heard their songs, what they did with the vocals and the music was like totally, ingenious at the time,
Yeah, that was always something I was curious about, where it's like, I mean, I guess they must have had radio promoting them for a while, even before they first appeared on Ed Sullivan.
Yes, they did.
Okay, yeah, so I mean, the hype was already there.
Yeah.
So, but like that was, unbelievable.
Because they were big in Germany, and in the UK.
Yeah.
And so once Brian Epstein died mysteriously. I still don't figure out how that happened. And then these New York guys got them. And then they set the stage for, getting all the radio play ahead of time and, starting the.
Yeah. I believe Epstein passed in '66, or I think it was. Yeah. I think it was either a drug overdose or he killed himself. I'm not really sure what happened.
But I don't know. My suspicion was, I don't know, somebody wanted to get him out of the way when they knew this band was going to be huge. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, so that revolutionized everything. And the Stones come, and all the English bands come. Zeppelin.
Oh, it opened the floodgates.
It was like a musical bonanza with these bands. It was so much fun playing that stuff.
Just all that British invasion stuff was fantastic.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So that was about it. So once you get it in your system, you can't kick it.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like you said, it's not necessarily once it's in your blood, it's not like, oh, this is just a phase he's going through. No, it's there for life.
Right. Exactly right.
That's amazing. Yeah, I will definitely have to take my dad to task for not telling me about you being on the road with Bruce and the Monkees and all that. That's still like,
yeah.
I mean, I can only imagine some of the shenanigans you guys got up to in school. I don't even want.
No, it wasn't too bad. We were pretty tame.
But I love the fact. More importantly, I love the fact that you and my dad, you guys are as close now as you ever have been.
Oh yeah.
Just all these years later, and that's just.
Oh yeah.
That always warms my heart, because it's like, man, I hope I'm still in touch with some of my buddies for that long, because it's not easy.
Yeah, but your dad, he makes it a point with all his friends to keep in touch, and all my guys locally up here, we do the same thing. When I came back, I'm playing golf with my high school buddies, every Wednesday, which is hilarious, So. Yeah, you gotta keep in touch, any guys.
Yeah. I know my mom and dad were up recently and got to catch up with you and Rich and Jack Rupert and which was great. I love it.
I saw him, and he headed up to Rupert's place in Williamsport. So Jack could talk his ear off for about 4 hours, I'm sure, but
I'll bet. Well, that's great. I mean, I know you mentioned, Dick Schmucky. I remember I went to school for a little bit with his nephew, Patrick.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Patrick and I were buddies for a while. We kind of lost touch a while back, but but I knew that he was a guitar player, and that was like right around the time where I was really starting to get into music. Mm-hmm. And it's funny looking back. It's a shame that your boys, Frankie and Andy, it's just a shame they never got into music. We could have had something going, like a little next generation type of deal.
I know. Hey, Jack, I had my drums in my basement for years, right? And every neighbor kid in the neighborhood would play my drums, and my sons never touched them. But Frank took guitar lessons for maybe 6 months, and then the guitar teacher tells me and my wife, that says, what, Frank would be really good. He loves the songs. I'm teaching him Nirvana songs, but he says he has to practice. He doesn't practice.
Yeah.
And that was his story,
it's tough for me, especially when I was playing bass and everything. Like I didn't really like to practice at
Yeah,
home, but rather than like read charts for me, what I would do I would slip in like a Metallica CD or something, and I would just like play along to that, and I ended up getting a pretty good ear from
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things you can't force it.
yeah.
You got to be there, and I'm glad now that like that I've made recordings of my own original material, and occasionally I played it in the car, and my girls kind of hear it, and they'll kind of nod their head,
Yeah.
and and just like, oh, Daddy, that sounds really good, and I just look back, I'm like, man, you guys rock. Like
That's
this is
right.
the best feeling.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's like kind of what I say. It's it can be its own reward sometimes when you have that and you're able to pass it on
Yeah.
and just let them know like, hey, this is what I used to do.
Exactly right.
So
Exactly right. Yeah, my sons would always come and see us as the trio, and three of us, they'd pop into these different local places, which is always nice.
that's cool. I know Andy's got a little girl now, and
He's got two now. He's had another one.
two. Oh, God bless him. And I hear Frankie's getting married soon.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
September, late September. Yep.
Definitely. I'll have to tell those guys hi for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, Frank, this has been awesome. I just love being able to catch up with you and talk about that sort of stuff. And it's just like I said, I've known you my entire life. You've always been one of my heroes. You've always been a big inspiration to me. So I appreciate everything you're doing, and I appreciate you taking the time to tell me about what you've got going on.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, it was so good to see you tonight. Stay in touch all these years too. I'm so proud of you for your family. You got the cutest wife and the cutest kids. So,
Thanks, man.
That's
I appreciate it. Yeah, they're 7 and 5 now. My girls, they're good.
yeah,
Yeah,
something
they're
like
awesome.
that.
Yeah. But hey, so where can people find some of your stuff online? If you have any links to some of either some of the music that you put out there, or any info about some of the screenplays. I don't know if anything has been filmed or anything like that. But it's if there's ways people can access it, feel free to plug everything you've got.
Yeah, well, I mean, our music's on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, all that stuff, and the band name is called Supa Philly, Suphilly. So we have maybe 6 songs out there. Just released the latest one, but we have an 18-year-old girl singer who did our last 2 tracks that Rich and I wrote.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, her voice is like crazy. Anyway, and so the last one is up to 111,000 streams now, with really no push from anybody, which we were happy about. It doesn't make any money, but I think this one's going to double it. This one's really, I already have 40 playlisters playing it now, and it's only been out a week. So
that's awesome.
This one's going to be pretty good.
That's great. Have you? Who are some of the producers in town that you've been working with?
Well, the original producer I was using was a guy I used to represent a long time ago. His name was Jim Salamone, and he's an R&B. He was a rock drummer, but he just got into the R&B scene because at the time, the local Sigma Sound Studios was a famous place that had all this, like the Spinners, the OJs.
Yeah, that classic Philadelphia soul.
Yeah, Philadelphia soul was there, and he got into doing all the drum programming for them, and then he became a producer, and he was involved with Teddy Pendergrass and what was his name? Grover Washington Jr. He produced a lot. So he did my first couple that I did with my old band. He did like a sort of R&B. We have an R&B tune called Percolate that it's just a little like a political thing I wrote. It's for the hell of it, but I said to him, I said, Jim, I really would like to get a choir, like the Tabernacle Choir or something like that, to do the chorus, on this song. He goes, well, Frank, he says, the Harlem Tabernacle Choir has 350 people in it. You want me to drag them in? And I said, no. He says, I got 3 girls that'll do it. And they were Patti LaBelle's backup singers.
Yeah, I saw the video, the 3 ladies who were singing on it, and you told me that they were backup singers for Patti LaBelle, which is amazing.
Yeah, so they did a good job.
Yeah,
that's
killer.
We wanted. So I did a couple things with him, and he did one or 2 of my rocks tunes, and then my old keyboard player from one of my bands was telling me about another guy in Drexel Hill near me who would be a good producer for all the new stuff Dick and I were writing, And his name's Brian Brickland. And he was in a band called Brickland in the 80s that had a couple record deals. And he's like a madman. He knows all the technical stuff, with producing, and he's musical too. So he just did the last 2 songs with our female, little 18-year-old girl, and he did a really great job. He played a little guitar on one of the tunes, and so we've been using him now. So
that's
worked
awesome.
out great, Yeah.
So cool. Well, awesome, Frank. I feel like I could talk to you for hours about this stuff. Thankfully, I won't, make you do that because I know it's getting late. But yeah, I'll definitely be promoting Supa Philly, and I think the latest single is "You're a Cheater." Is that the?
You're a Cheater. Yes.
Oh wow! I'll bet there's a story behind that.
A song sung by an angry 18-year-old woman who did a great job.
Oh man!
My promo
sounds
is
pretty edgy.
To all the women who have been betrayed. That's how I'm selling it. So I don't know if that sticks or not, but she did a great job.
Hey, I think a lot of people can relate to that. So that's one of those universal themes. Yeah. I think it's never going to go out of style. But
half the population.
But that's cool. I always like to Look to the Sky, by the way. I just thought that was a
thanks. Yeah. But the Patti LaBelle girls were in that one too, singing the chorus of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a nice job.
Definitely had a bit of like a Prince vibe to it. It was R&B, but it was a little experimental.
Yeah. A little wacky. What do we know?
Very cool.
When these playlisters call me and go, well, you got a weird variety of stuff in there. I said, we're just shooting from the hip. We don't know what we're doing.
That's great. I love that because I feel like a lot of musicians tend to feel like they have to like fit into a certain box, and it's like, well, that's not always the case.
Yeah.
Because look at the Beatles. They kind of did whatever they want.
Oh, for years the record labels wanted to be a formula with the same stuff.
Yeah.
We don't do that. We just have different interests.
And a lot of the bands that I grew up loving did the same thing. Like Queen. Queen was very, very similar, very eclectic.
Yeah.
And so many others, since then. So, but that's awesome. Well, anyways, yeah, everyone check out Supa Philly on Amazon. I'll be posting all the links in the description. Uncle Frank, it's awesome to have you as part of this, man.
It's good to see you live.
This is super cool,
buddy. Thanks for that. Hopefully, we'll be in touch.
Cool.
I'm fine.
Cool. I think we've got enough for a podcast there. That's I'll definitely I've got kind of a busy weekend ahead of me. I'm actually doing a gig on Friday night, which is going to be fun.
Good for you. I like to play too, but it ain't happening. So it just keeps me busy.
Hey, you never know. So, but yeah, I've got a couple different, like I was in an original band for 10 years. That kind of fell apart, and I'm still working on writing new stuff. But I also have been doing a lot of cover band work as well. So just to make a little extra money, but it's also a fun way to do it. So that's.
Oh yeah, it's fun to play.
Absolutely.
Fun to play.
Yeah. No, it's fun for sure. Yeah, I believe Patrick Schmucky. I think he was Joe Schmucky's son.
That's right.
Yeah. I've been meaning to ask you for a while. Because I know you have recordings of the old band. I wonder if it's possible to get some of Vic's records.
Well, you know what, Jack?
Because my dad has told me about those for years, and I remember I only remember meeting him one time, and I was young, and that was just like a year or so, I think, before he passed.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's funny. I put a lot of the Wellington Arrangement records on YouTube. It's on our YouTube, our Supa Philly YouTube channel. Every once in a while, I turn on my TV and watch, and one of Dick's, Vic wrote a couple co-writes when we were with Decca Records. And all the Decca Records stuff, almost all the Decca Records singles are on YouTube. But we didn't do, we did maybe 2 partially written songs. The rest of them are our producers asked us to do. In fact, one of them was, your dad told you this story. They wanted us to do a song, that they wrote. We didn't know they wrote it, when we first met them, so. Mm-hmm. He said, well, I want you to hear a song. So the guy comes out, he's got a briefcase. He said, see this briefcase, Frank? I said, yeah. I said, when you hear this song, you'll hear the drum track. I played the timpani on this briefcase to get that sound, so you'll know when you hear it, right? So they played the song. Well, what's the song? Na 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 na. Hey hey hey. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Like sold about 3 zillion records.
Yeah, that was a huge
They
song.
say, we'd really like you guys to do this song, you know. So all of us in unison said, it's really not our type of song.
Oh, man.
Not our type of song.
Oh, you're right there.
Right there. We could have done it. And so they didn't have anybody to do it. So the guys who were bringing us our Blimpie burgers in New York City when we were recording all the other songs, they made them steam, the band that played. So they never even played live before. We were like, oh, my God. And we found out another year later, you know, when we heard it on the radio, we almost crashed the car, you know.
Yeah, of course. And that's one of those songs where it's like nobody remembers the name of the band who does it, but everyone remembers that song.
Every you know, college football game and every sporting event and all that stuff. Yeah.
Wrestling, you name it.
All over the place. So another one missed, but you know.
Hey, what are you going to do? But it makes for a great story.
Yeah, we got a ton of stupid maneuvers like that.
Exactly. Awesome, Frank. Well, I'll let you go. I'll definitely have to check out, you know, some of the older stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, check it. You get a laugh at it. It's really it sounds kind of hinky in there, but Randy sings a couple tracks. Joe sings a bunch. So, you know, it's funny.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
No, this is awesome, Frank. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I'm going to tell. I'll bet you know Dad's really going to get a kick out of it. Hopefully your boys do too. Yeah. So we'll see. But I'll let you know once it's ready to be posted, and then we can go around sharing it and all that stuff.
Okay, sounds good, buddy.
All right, Frank. Have a good night.
Good night, buddy. Great seeing you again. Thanks.
Yeah, you too. Okay. Thanks once again to the man, the legend, Frank McDonnell, for coming on and telling us all about his great career. It's always a pleasure to connect with him and just talk about music, talk about life, and like I said, he's someone I've known my entire life. So it's always cool to talk to him about this, especially now as an adult. Talking to him and kind of comparing our careers. So it's always been great to catch up with Frank, and I was glad I could share his story with all of you. As far as some upcoming events for me, I have quite a few shows planned in the next few weeks and months. On Thursday, August 29th, I will be playing at Winfield's in Satellite Beach, playing bass with Vita Ventura. Vita is a really talented singer. She was born in Italy, I believe grew up in the UK. She's been a backup singer for some pretty big names, and she's had quite a bit of her own stuff as well. She's a really talented singer and songwriter, and I'll be playing bass with her band. And Vita will be opening up for Trapped. Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. On September 27th, I will be playing with Vita's cover band, Innuendo. Vita and my buddy Will have started this cover band a while back called Innuendo, and they asked me to come play bass with them on September 27th at the Sandbar in Cocoa Beach. September 27th is a Friday night, so make sure you come out to that if you're in the area. On Friday, November 29th, I will be playing with my friend's band, Atrium. Atrium is the latest band created by Bryant August, who was a buddy of mine, and I played with his old band, Mature Musical Pictures, for a little bit. So I will be playing with Bryant's band, Atrium, at the Ranch in Fort Myers. We will be opening up for Hardwired, which is a great Metallica tribute band. If you're in the area, you're not going to want to miss this. And then finally, on Saturday, December 14th, I will be playing with New Divide, my Linkin Park tribute band. We will be playing the Sailfish Brewing Company in Fort Pierce. So make sure you check those out. Make sure you check all my links to see all the details about my upcoming shows, about where they're going to be, when they're going to be, who I'm playing with. And that'll have various links to all my social media platforms as well, so you can follow along. And as always, that is it for this episode of the Phoenix Report. Again, make sure you check all the links in the description below. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can email me at jackconnorpodcast@gmail.com. You could tweet me or X me, I guess, is that what it's called now, with the hashtag Phoenix Report. I'm on Instagram and X at JackXConnor. And make sure you follow along, subscribe, hit the like button, whatever you need, however you're listening to this. I always appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks once again, as always. This has been the Phoenix Report. I'm Jack Connor, and I'll talk to you later.